HR Famous is brought to you by HRU Tech, a contingent staffing firm specializing in engineering, IT, and technically related placements across multiple industries. If you're looking for technical talent or searching for a career, look no further than HRU Tech. Find them online at hrutech.com and call them today. HR Famous is also brought to you by Kinetics, the leading RPO recruiting firm for growth companies, named by HRO Today as the top midsize RPO provider. Kinetics uses its unique skill-based recruiter model to deliver on RPO engagements, allowing them to customize scope to meet your unique hiring needs. If you have recruiting challenges and want to consider RPO as a solution, give Kinetics a call. Find them online at kineticshr.com.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Sackett. We're back with another edition of the HR Famous podcast. As always, not as always, because we've been kind of mixing things up a little bit. But today I have with me my good friends Kris Dunn and Jessica Lee. Kris out of Birmingham, Alabama, and Jessica Lee out of the Metroplex of Washington D.C., Virginia. What did they call that?
The DMV.
The DMV. I always think DMV is like driver motor vehicle.
Yeah,
like I'm going down to get my license. Yeah,
Me too.
right?
Me too. They call the MVA here.
Okay. Well, there it goes, because the DMV stands for all the rest. So, hey, we're all, in our home offices or whatever that might be, and have a couple of things. One big topic we want to talk about today around coronavirus and PTO, and kind of some stuff that's been happening that I think is will ultimately become a really big issue post coronavirus. We'll see. But first, there was a question that I had somebody ask, and I wanted to ask you guys to get started, which is this concept of how your life was pre-coronavirus to how your life is now. And if you think about a percent difference, so like for me, I would say the percent difference in my life is like 50 to 60% different, right? Like I'm not traveling, I'm not doing stuff, but so I'm asking you guys, what do you think? What percentage of your life has changed between what it was like 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago to what it is right now? Jessica, we'll start with you. We'll start with you, Jess.
90%. Everything has changed. I'm wearing athleisure wear every day. I'm drinking a lot more. I know my children better. I know my husband's flaws more. The work is different. 90, maybe 95%.
KD?
And I won't say for the better or worse. I'm just going to say 90, 95%.
Just change. Yeah, just different. Change.
I'm sure that's a mixture, Jlee. You don't have to pontificate. We're not going to corner you up and go pros and cons on that. So Tim, I would say it's probably 40% for me. I think
that's
the big thing is, because I work from home a good bit before this. Okay, so check on that. And I think the big changes for me is during the shut-in period, I've already eaten dinner with the family more than I have probably in the last year, based on everybody having an active lifestyle. And I've got a freshman in college, sophomore in high school. So that is a nice thing. As Jlee said, I think I probably know the family better as a result. The other thing is on the tail end of this, and probably both of you, I'm going into the fourth week of kind of the lockdown period where I'm not really doing anything outside of the estate. Although I do go for a run, and I weave away from people. It's not like those scenes in Atlanta that you see where people urban people that, are living the metro lifestyle are on the Greenway, and they're all there's thousands of people there, right? And they're just totally disrespecting this lockdown period. It's not like that where the hipsters are doing that, but so I'm doing that. I think the other thing, Tim and Jlee, and you can make the appropriate jokes on this, is I think in the last half of this, I started being more contemplative of where I need to go from here in a lot of ways, because there's more time and business is slower. It was really fast at the beginning because of the wave of change. It slowed down a little bit for me anyway, and I'm more contemplative as a result. Tim, what about you?
My favorite contemplative Kris Dunn is Christian Dunn, life coach, which is
Love it.
he's really the best, contemplative kind of person. I think KD, you're lying a little bit in that, like the other thing, like I mean, you weren't really full in what's been going on. Like you spend so much time on this wonderful deck you have now. Like, I mean, I get pictures. I send you pictures of like snow in April in Michigan. I get pictures of you out there, like with your cat, like taking naps on your deck. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and by the way, that's a deck as in the outdoor deck rather than the PowerPoint deck. I just want to point that out for the uninitiated.
Kris has a really big deck, everybody.
Size doesn't matter.
Well, Mrs. Dunn, Mrs. Dunn built that. And, I know my role. My role is to be skeptical of said deck building, but then to really enjoy it a couple of years later when the great crisis comes. And then I'm like, hey, you know what? The world's kind of like ending here, but it's really nice in the spring out on this deck.
I agree with that.
The whole percentage thing change, I think, comes from like if you were to answer like, oh well, my life's only changed about 10%. I think you really have to start to question like, holy crap, what the hell? what am I doing with my life? Yeah, for sure, right? Like how bad could it be that's all that's going? So, anyways, KD, I know you had something you wanted to get our opinion on as well, so I want to kind of figure out that. Like, come at us. What do you got going on?
So I think we're talking about PTO. So I think it's a perfect time to bring this up, just to tell the cancel culture we have to back off. Okay, so my boy, I'm saying he's my boy. He's not my boy. I'm not a CNN watcher. I'm really not a news channel watcher at all. But Chris Cuomo, the governor's brother, who does the evening show on CNN.
That is my boy.
That's your boy? Okay. Well, let's talk.
I never know which is which, by the way.
Let's break this down.
Like when I see him on the side by side.
Right. Yeah, he's the younger brother. So the CNN guy.
I never
the younger one.
I don't care really, I guess.
Okay, there's an older one.
I think he's more handsome.
Yeah, of course. Jlee, what do you think? Is there? Yeah. I'm guessing there's a 12. There's at least a 10-year difference, correct?
Yes, at least. I actually thought that Andrew was his father at one point, and then I read Wikipedia and then understood no, his father was the other governor.
Right.
But I digress.
Okay, so the thing is, so Politico, for the uninitiated, Chris Cuomo caught the coronavirus, right? And went down, self-quarantined, and somewhere in the New York metropolitan area, he's in a basement. I guess that means the Long Island area. So he's in his house, and he's been in his basement, and he's been actually participating in anchoring his show from the basement, like a lot of personalities we know have. And Politico did this kind of takedown piece that, since we're talking about PTO, I just wanted to talk about. And basically they said, Chris Cuomo, stay in bed, which was an ode to the fact that we all need more balance. We need a little me time. We need to take care of ourselves. And it's really insinuating that he is providing a bad example for everyone in society by, booting it up, getting out of bed and doing his show from the basement, looking like shit, Jlee, by the way, like when he's doing it, authentic, transparent.
No.
And you can see the stairs like to his basement in the background, which I'm sure he did just to be authentic. but the basic thing, and Jlee, since you're the biggest fan on this pod of Chris Cuomo, what do you think about Politico coming in and saying, Chris Cuomo, stay in bed. You're a bad example for the rest of America, the rest of the world, by getting out of bed and going to work sick, even though you're quarantined. Jlee, come on in.
I think haters are going to hate, and that's what it boils down to. So I get it. He's sick. He should use his sick leave or his PTO and do what he needs to recover. But I actually think he's doing a public service by talking about like what it's like to have COVID-19. I also think that it is amazing television when you have the Cuomo brothers side by side and they got their, banter back and forth with one another and how charming is little brother, big brother, all that kind of stuff. And so, Politico, I think haters are just going to hate. They wish they could have that banter and that dynamic with the two brothers, but nope, they don't got it.
I got an
Tim.
example. So I was looking to hire maybe a couple contract recruiters in this process, and so I threw something out there on the interwebs, like we do, to get some folks. And had a guy said, "Oh, I'm interested," blah blah blah. I'm like, "Cool, send me your resume." 3 days go by, and I get his resume, and he's like, "Hey, sorry, yeah, I just really need to take a break. I had to take a couple of days for myself."
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, "Thanks for the resume. We filled the position." Like, for me, that person will not make it in the new world. And for those people who are hating on, or Politico by saying Chris Cuomo stay in bed, or Andrew, or whoever the hell it was, I think that's ridiculous, KD. I think, hey, this guy has a 1 in what? I mean, there's 100 people that have that job. He could be on his deathbed and he would be like, "Hey, bring the lights in, bring the cameras in. Let's go. I need to get a couple more minutes on air," because he's not giving that job up. If he goes off the air for 2 weeks, he might never come back.
There's another guy right behind
that Don
him.
Lemon is going to come for him.
There's another guy right behind him that will make Jlee say, "You know what? He's not hard on the eyes either, and he's got good progressive
good jawline.
ideas. So bring him on." The thing that frustrates me about this is there's a lot more of this in the world than there's ever been. And we're getting ready to talk about PTO and what type of PTO do people really want. So I think it's a good jump off point just to say the following is there's never been anyone who has achieved great things in their life without outworking someone else. Now, there's a couple of examples of just people who are just freaking more talented, and they're born with gifts that none of the rest of us have. But for everybody else, it's you got to put in the work. And there's this whole apology culture that says we shouldn't like the people, Tim, who don't work as hard should expect the same results. And it's absolute bullshit. It never works that way.
Yeah.
And I could go down the list of the friends I have, including the two of you, that have pretty good careers. And even with the limited amount I know, I would say, I'd give examples from both of you to say, yeah, there's probably somebody a lot like you that's achieved less. And it's because they didn't grind it out. So I think Chris Cuomo, as a conservative and a moderate conservative at best, I think, I like Chris Cuomo doing it. Shout out to him, and shout out to, as Jlee said, kind of the banter that he and his brother have. I like it. I think, Jlee, by the way, sometimes it goes on a little bit too long. I need 30 seconds. I need a minute of the banter, not 4 minutes counter back and forth.
You gotta cut them some slack. They haven't seen each other. We're all deprived of just conversation. They're catching up.
It's two cracks.
I know. I get every day when I'm on the phone with KD, he's constantly trying to get off the phone with me. I'm like, "What do you got to do besides go back out on that deck and do nothing? Keep talking to me. I got to waste 8 hours here. Come on."
Super busy. Christian Dunn, the coaching practice of Christian Dunn. It's not gonna run itself, Timmy.
So, KD, it leads right into a great conversation. So, a friend of the show, Matt Charney, we all know Matt. I was with him in San Francisco a couple months ago. And Matt threw out on Twitter this really kind of a statement, like Matt does. He's a great Twitter follow, by the way. He's a smart guy and a little provocative. But he threw out there that basically coronavirus or the whole pandemic has really pulled the mask off the scam that is unlimited PTO, and kind of just left it out there with a statement being what we all know now. If you're an employee and you have the choice between choosing accrual type of a PTO plan or choosing unlimited, that he, in his belief, everybody would choose accrual because unlimited PTO is a scam. So I came back to him and said, I think you're completely wrong. Not that it's not a scam, and I'll explain the scam real quickly in a minute, but that I think most employees, if given the choice, would still choose unlimited PTO. So we threw it out on LinkedIn as a challenge to say, hey, give us your take. Would you do this? Now, the scam of unlimited PTO is that it's not really unlimited. Otherwise, if you told me like I was going to be laid off or furloughed or whatever, I would just be like, nope, I'm taking unlimited PTO for 4 months and keep paying me because this is my benefit. But that's not really what happens. It's also, we know that most people, and all the data shows that most individuals that go to an unlimited PTO plan usually end up using less than they did when they had accrual. And so I'll throw it to you guys, and we'll start with Jessica. What do you think in terms of, if you think like just every company, every employee, if you were to go out and do a massive survey and you said, hey, here's the two things, and we educated on both, unlimited PTO and accrual, here's the positives, negatives, what do you think your people would choose?
Well, first off, I have to say, it's like unlimited data, is it not? Like, when I have unlimited data on my cell phone, it's not really unlimited. At a certain point, they text me and say, you've used it too much and we're tethering you and we're pulling it back. Like, so I don't know. Is there something, there's some kind of parallel there? The thing that I struggle with is is it really possible to do something for your employees or your organization that's going to meet everyone's needs? I always wonder, like, is there not a way to get to a point where you have a little bit of both? People have options, because I just don't think everyone wants the same thing. So I never know what to do with that. How can we just paint a broad brush to say, yes, everyone's going to like this unlimited thing, or everyone's going to like accrual?
So the question is, do you feel more employees, if given those two options, would choose unlimited PTO or accrual? You have to answer.
I have to answer. I think at a time like this, they'll probably choose accrual. Unlimited is just like the data plan. It's not real.
Wrong.
Jeez.
KD.
Tough. So here's what I'll say, Tim.
Well,
I've got to
he already told you what
qualify.
the wrong answer
I've got to qualify my response. I think the curve, the hype curve of unlimited PTO has been flattened. Okay. So I think what you're seeing is
just like we need the virus to flatten.
That's right. We've paid attention to it. We've seen the fallback. So 50-50 is my call. I think it goes 50-50. By the way, we're talking about white collar professionals, right? People in call centers, people on manufacturing floors. Doesn't work that way for the most part, right? Because you've got to plan to a greater degree than you can with white collar professionals. But I think it's roughly 50-50. I think it used to be 75-25. People would have grabbed for the unlimited PTO. I think there's been so many experiences with it, and people have talked about it enough now that I think it's 50-50. And Tim, if you forced me to choose, choose what white collar professionals would pick pre-COVID, I would say that unlimited PTO still wins. Post-COVID, I think it's even, and maybe it goes back to accrual.
I think, one of the interesting things that we found out, so there was like, a bunch of comments that people made. Here's the funny part is you ask the question, what would your employees choose? And immediately HR people go right to themselves.
Of course.
And go, oh, well, I'm Team Charney. I would choose accrual because unlimited PTO is a scam. And you're like, I'm not asking you that. I'm asking what would your employees do? Because there was a bunch of employee type people that came in as well that weren't HR that said, hey, I have an unlimited and I'm going to keep unlimited, because, and here's the thing is they feel like if they go back to accrual, they're giving away the potential that they could take off more time if they wanted to or needed to or whatever that might be. In the accrual, if they look at it and they go, oh, it's so here's one of the issues with accrual. So not only that it's a static amount that you just keep, looking at, and then some companies have a use it or lose it, blah, blah, blah. But what most people said that they wanted accrual for was not because they wanted more time off or it helped them take more time. It was an insurance policy so that if they got fired or if they left their company, they could bank this accrual time and then they got this big check when they left. And then I'm like, well, shoot, as an HR leader, I definitely don't want accrual then, because why do I want to plan where people automatically are just setting themselves up to have an insurance policy if they leave or if they get fired, versus actually taking the time that they need to maintain their wellness and maintain their sanity and actually take good time off for themselves and their family? That doesn't actually happen. So obviously both sides of accrual and unlimited have issues. But when you think of, what do you guys think of that insurance policy accrual thing that happens? And I've seen it in my own company. I don't know if you do, KD, but like when we had that type of kind of thing, and we don't really have, we have a use it or lose it with a caveat that you can carry so much over to the next year because you might have like a vacation planned early in the year or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you guys see that insurance policy thing happening?
Tim, I think that, like, just from talking to people like in the industry, I think only the companies that are big, paternal, maternal, whatever you want to say, like the really benefit rich companies and going all the way to like the government, I think are the only ones left that will allow you to bank. Like, let's split up PTO a little bit here, okay? Because you've got vacation time, you got PTO days, you've got sick days. I think when it comes to vacation time and PTO that's apart from sick, and I know some people bundle it together like a freaking cable company, right? And they say you got to take the bundle. But if you split it up, I don't think there are a lot of companies left that actually will let you carry over vacation days. Now, what I will say that I really like, and I think this is the responsible thing to do, if you split it up, remember, so we've had a bunch of waves in terms of what's sexy to do with paid time off. It used to be vacation and sick. Then we had vacation, sick, and guess what, Jlee? We're going to give you some floating days because that's the big bonus in the package. Now, let me say this, and then Tim, you can come back in, or Jlee can come in. What I absolutely love from a roll it over perspective. So I think vacation time, like any days that are coded like that, you use it or you lose it. And Tim, if you want to roll over a couple, that's fine. What I really, really am concerned about, and what I think is employee centric, is if you do sick time, I think allowing sick time to roll over. And if you don't want to roll it over for 10 years, you roll it over to a certain max, because what that becomes is compensation that gets bundled with short-term disabilities or short-term disability payments when people go out to have kids. They go out for a variety of things. A lot of STD plans will pay 60% of comp, and then people make up the difference either with bank vacation time. But I think that block, Jlee, of sick time, if you did split it up that way, is really important for major medical where you need to combine it with short-term disability.
Hey friends, Marnie Robbins here, host of Vibe Makers, a podcast now on the Work Defined Network. Look, we all know workplace culture doesn't come from a slide deck. Gross. It comes from people. So on Vibe Makers, I talk to the folks shaping the experience of work from the inside out. You know, the HR and people ops folk, founders, leaders, and misfits building culture through small bets, big beliefs, and a whole lot of trial and error. No fluff. Well, maybe a little fluff, but mainly just candid talk about what happens when you stop duct taping your culture together. Come check us out. Listen to Vibe Makers wherever you get your podcasts.
So I think you're right. What's interesting is like having those loose caps or a lack of a cap for how much you can bank and continue to roll over. I can't even tell you how much PTO my husband has that just keeps earning and earning
Government,
and earning.
right?
And what's interesting is I don't actually think like either, federal government for you right there. Your taxpayer dollars hard at work. I don't think either of us actually think of it as an like an insurance type of thing. Actually, I'm thinking back to my youth, and what I actually used to do was I wouldn't take the days off. I'd keep banking my PTO and vacation days, and then when it was time to quit, it was like my incentive. It was like, this is what I get, all this payment for not having taken these days off. And so I think there's a little bit of that out there as well. I know when the day comes for Bobby J to retire from the federal government, it's going to be like a nice payday to get all that paid
He's getting
out.
a big check.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
So I'm wondering, like, so we know now, like, so many of these issues popped up because of the pandemic and people having to go home and the government's having to come in and help. And, and then we know that we're now going to go through this extended period of people returning to work. But then if you're sick, like, hey, you have to leave and go home because we don't want you to get everybody else sick or whatever that might be. So I think what we're going to see is this whole evolution of what does this look like from a PTO perspective moving forward. And I have a feeling like there's going to be some hybrid plans out there. I will tell you on the unlimited PTO thing, one of the things that came up too is those people that had companies with really great culture, that they, obviously they love the PTO, unlimited PTO. Those that came from a toxic culture, the unlimited PTO is just like basically a talent attraction kind of benefit. It was like, oh yeah, I get to go work for this company and I have unlimited vacation time. And then you get in there and you find out it's so cutthroat that there's no way you're ever going to take time off, or you're going to lose your job or lose your position. So my thought process is the better way to do this is, one, give a really robust accrual plan, right? So that it's not like, oh, your first year you get 5 days or 10 days and you get 7, holidays, or you get whatever. And then all of a sudden it becomes like this, like that. I think that's the reason accrual basically stopped being sexy, was because it was just so limited and people felt like, well, what happens if I run out? And then people, started doing crazy stuff because they come in sick, right? I mean, that's the issue, is they don't want to use their limited amount of time they have, so they come to work sick.
Hey, Tim.
So what if we went unlimited with just a more robust accrual plan, but then also, like, if you leave, kind of like a no-fault leave, like no-fault insurance, like for car insurance. Like if you decide to leave, we're not going to pay out anything. You're not going to accrue. But we'll give you just like a month's worth of salary, no matter what, or something. I don't know. Like there has to be some kind of a hybrid here. KD.
Hey, let's talk about who we're trying to attract with these policies. I'm interested to get your take on this. So if you think, and Tim, you said it the way you generally hear it, is you hear people say, oh, I've got unlimited PTO. And what I would ask is, does unlimited PTO mean anything to a high performer, like high drive, like person, Jlee? Does it mean a damn thing? I'm not sure it does. Does Chris Cuomo care that CNN gives him unlimited PTO? It feels like we're looking for a policy that appeals to the masses, and I think it attracts. I'm going to get criticized for saying this. I just wonder, Tim, if it doesn't attract average people. There, I said it. Is that right? I don't even know. Go, Jlee. What do you got?
Well, I mean, this is why I still get stuck on, like, you can't make everyone happy with, a blanket program. And I don't know if this is just administratively not feasible, a nightmare. But I think, to your point, like, people have different needs, they have different motivations. I just don't know how you can make it work for everyone.
So Jlee, if you had a blank slate and you had these
what
tools,
would it look like?
And you could let people choose the plan they wanted. Okay, so they get traditional accruals, and we're going to go the KD model to say that it's vacation time and sick time, because we're going to try and protect people when they're out for some type of leave with the sick days, or they can take unlimited vacation. Now what I want you to do is I want you to segment the workforce, not necessarily where you work, but overall in America, segment the workforce. Who is attracted to both those policies?
Well, can I take it a step further, and then I can try to do some segmentation for you?
No, you have to answer my question.
Well, I am going to, no, you guys are forcing me. How I would take it a step further is that, in addition to PTO, vacation, sick, etc., like, I want to have choices. Like, my blank slate would be, I am pre-start with an employer and I am making my choices. What does my vacation or PTO plan look like? I want to choose choose what other benefits I'm opting into or not. And you give me a bucket of money that I get to work with that cover my benefits, and that I really pick things that are going to make a difference and work for my lifestyle, for what I'm motivated by. I just think that right now we just try to stick everyone in the same box, assuming, like Tim was saying, that, whoever that benefits person is, like, that they're thinking about what do they want for themselves, what would they like, as opposed to putting themselves ruling the shoes of people and the various needs and motivations that they have. So that's how I would take it a step further.
Let me
But
rephrase.
but Jlee, most average employees are stupid. Like, they don't, like, you sit there and say that, and they'll say, "Oh, here's your $25,000 a year bucket of money, and you can do this or this," and they'll go, "Oh, well, I'm just going to take it all as a bonus because I'm healthy and I'm young. I don't need health insurance, and I don't need to take time off." And then all of a sudden something happens and their life falls apart because they made one dumb decision that we allowed them to make. I understand. Like, I'm with you. I love the choice aspect, but I think as HR leaders, we always go, we can't do that because our people aren't smart enough to handle it appropriately. And again, I'm not saying all people, but I'm like, the vast majority make really bad decisions financially, and this just will exacerbate that.
Tim, let me rephrase the question. So let's say that you're hiring for a position, and we'll just leave the position unnamed, but it's a white collar position, and you have an unlimited PTO policy, and you've got three types of candidates. They all look great on paper, but through your astute selection process, Tim, one of them is incredibly driven. One of them is of average drive and subsequently average performance. And one has a great resume, but is going to like bottom out at HRU Tech. So you're going to make the offer to the first one. Which plan for the highly driven white collar professional do you think that person wants? And your only choices, going back to Charney and you on LinkedIn, your only choices are unlimited PTO or accruals. High drive, high performer. Which plan does that person want?
Unlimited PTO. It's too sexy to get. It's too sexy to give up. No, it's too sexy to give up. Here's why: is because if you're a really great performer, you're going to take time off when you can take time off, and everyone's going to be encouraging you to, because you're going to be like, "Hey, I'm thinking Friday I might run out to the beach," and your boss is going to be like, "Heck yeah, you're killing it. You go to the beach. That's awesome. You go do you." And so they want it. They want to be able to unlimited. They want to take it. They're like, "Hey, okay. I had a great 2 months. I'm going to go to Europe for the holidays." They'll be like, "Yes, you go." I'm just telling you right now, they want unlimited PTO because they want the choice to be able to take that time if they want to take it. They don't want to be held to say, "Oh, you could only take 2 weeks."
The problem is you started this, like, you actually cracked back on Jlee earlier to say, "No, Jlee, answer the question." So you have to answer I guess you did answer the question.
I answered the question.
PTO. I disagree. I think you're confusing the choice between unlimited PTO and accrual with a third choice and a third reality that is actually the best of all worlds. The real answer is it doesn't matter what type of policy you have, because the best managers treat their high performers differently, and they don't even count days, right? So if Jlee was working for me and she's performing at a high level, Jlee and I are going to have, after she gets through 9 to 12 months with me, we're going to have an unwritten rule that I know stuff's going to get done. And I don't even ask her to count her time. And I know that a lot of people are really caught up in the time and how does that get accrued for? But the best people, Jlee, really good managers, when they have good people, are doing what Tim suggests, right? Friday, yeah, go. But they don't even care if that day gets counted, right? So there's this reality in between the policies.
One correction.
Yeah.
Is that you would not make that decision after 9 to 12 months with me. You would probably, I'd say maybe 3 months, 6 months. You'd be like, "All right, she's crushing it. Yeah, go do what you need to."
And I'm intimidated. I'm also intimidated by Jlee. Of course, I'm not going to challenge her. I mean, where was she on Friday, Tim? I don't know.
KD,
stuff's
KD, the problem
done.
with that plan, The problem with that plan is it ends up like we end up with a lot of leadership bias that comes out and says, oh, well, KD and Tim are friends. They golf together. They fish together. So Tim wants to take the day off on Friday. KD's like, yeah, let's go. Yeah. And yet he's an average performer, a weak performer. And then Jlee is still in the office grinding it out, and she's a female. And all of a sudden now you run into these issues, right? So it's easy to sit there and say, yeah, let's just do it on performance and let our leaders go out there and do it. But gosh, it does. Then we know the issue that happens on the backside of that.
So Jlee, both you and I disagreed. You know, I framed the question to Tim. What does that high drive, high performer want? He said unlimited PTO. I believe it's accrual, and I'm going to throw it to you, Jlee, for your answer to this. I believe it's accrual because of what we've learned about unlimited PTO. So I think the really strong white collar professional is probably well versed enough in unlimited PTO where they're going to be doing the Chris Cuomo thing. Like they're getting out of bed and like broadcasting from the basement. They don't have to. And I think the smart white collar professional, Jlee, looks at that and says, hey, you know what? Like I get the whole unlimited PTO thing, but the bottom line is I'm going to outwork this thing anyway. And when I'm gone, I'm gone. So you get to call me Friday night, Tim Sackett, because like the server's down at HRU Tech. Again, you know, I'm going to deal with it for you. You're going to call me on a weekend because you're in the office, because you don't want to work from home. You got like the Michigan landscape behind you. I'm going to answer all that phones, but I want the accrual because I'm going to work all the time anyway. But when I'm gone, I just want to be gone. And I want like a week where Tim Sackett doesn't call me. Jlee, that was my answer to why I think it's accrual. What's yours?
So I think I'm on the same page as you, or it's option 3, which I know you don't want to force us into, or you don't want to allow us to have, but they just don't care. So by default, yeah, I think they'll take the accrual. I don't think they care.
Or Jaylee's answer, bucket of money.
Cool.
Which, by the way, is set to sweet corporate America, the bucket of money like approach. So that's how we'll explain it on onboarding, Tim. We'll say, hey, so there's this bucket of money. And it's up to you.
Yeah, just take the bucket.
Hey, I do think it's a great conversation to have right now. I think a lot of organizations are going to be having this post coronavirus, and we're getting people back to work to determine in 2021, 2022, all these things like, what do we do now when we know potentially we have, for so long, people would come to work sick, and we just that was part of the grinder mentality. Like, hey, it's okay. You got a cold, you got the flu. I'm going to keep coming to work because I don't want to lose my position or lose something or lose my job or whatever that might be. We're now going into an environment with high unemployment. There's going to be more pressure for people to say, hey, I'm going to come to work sick. And yet organizations want to protect the customer, their other employees, all this other stuff. Now we have to be able to figure out what kind of plan can we give them to actually help them say, no, don't come in. We don't want you to come in and get people sick. I think it's going to be real interesting times. So I'm going to get us out of here. KD, last thought.
Tim, before you get us out of here, what was I think we all know Charney's answer based on what your answer was, but what was Charney's answer, and top level, what was his rationale behind that?
No, I mean, he just, because of all the data that comes out that says people use less, and so basically unlimited PTO ends up being an advantage to employers, not employees, was the ultimate reason why he thought unlimited PTO will just go away post kind of coronavirus.
Also, what is your favorite, speaking of Charney, what's your favorite flat bill hat that Charney wears?
Lakers. I'm a big Lakers fan myself, so I like when he wears the Lakers stuff.
Jessica, what's your favorite flat bill?
Flat bill hat. Not as good as my hat today. Well, I'd like to see him wearing a math hat like me.
But for those that can't see,
which is everyone,
has the math hat, the math elite.
I'm still rocking my Andrew Yang Universal Basic Income Make America Think Harder hat, even though he's not in the race anymore.
All right, everybody. I'm going to get us out of here. That's been HR Famous for Jessica Lee, for Kris Dunn. I am Tim Sackett, and we are out.